Hello, everybody. This is Sanita Mitchell, and this is In the Mix with the Mitchells. As you can see, we are missing one part of the Mitchell team, and that's because on the fourth Thursday of every month, it is the live segment of In the Mix with the Mitchells. So it's just me, and occasionally we'll have a special guest come in. But today is a very, very important day. For those of you who may not know that this week is National Infertility Awareness Week, known as NIAW. And I think it's so phenomenal that I know there's so many awareness for April, Child Abuse Month. I think autism, there's so many different types of awareness. And this week is all about infertility. And as some of you may or may not know, we have a nonprofit, Anaya's Project, which focuses on not only just pregnancy and infant loss, but we also support families who are dealing with fertility issues. And so just to give you a little insight on our background, actually it's almost 9 years tomorrow. Will make 9 years since we lost our daughter, Anaya. Her birthday is April 26, 2010. And it has been a true journey to get to this point of having an organization. But not only that, we struggled for about 3 years before we were able to have what is known as rainbow babies, our 2 rainbow babies. And rainbow babies are babies that follow laws. And so we were actually given a 10% chance of conceiving on our own. So we were looking at having to go through the trials of infertility treatments, the drugs, just the different things, testings. And then if none of those things were going to work, then we were ultimately looking at the top of the fertility treatments is the IVF. And for those of you who don't know, that's the in vitro fertilization. And that can cost anywhere between $20,000 to $25,000 and even more on a maybe, right? So we understand how devastating it can be to get news such as you may not be able to conceive. And ladies, I know that can be so hard because, that's, for a lot of women, that's what we were told since we were little girls that was our job, right? Our job is to grow up, become somebody's wife, and then become somebody's mother. Right? And that in society, that's what's dictated to girls at such a young age. And then to not be able to do that is pressure, right? So we have people who will, like, right after you get married, it's like, so when are you guys going to have the baby? So you've been married for 3 months. When is the baby? So, but for a lot of people, it actually isn't that easy to do. It seems like, okay, that's the natural course of action is you get married and then you're with your spouse and then there should be a baby, right? And so that's not always the case for a lot of women, a lot of families. In fact, the statistics are 1 in 8 families are impacted by infertility. So what does that mean? We're going to get into that on today with our segment because there's so much pressure on women to conceive and to have another child or to grow their family. And there's so much pressure. And you see your friends conceiving, which may to you seem easily, but we don't really know what goes on behind the closed doors of how long did it take that person to conceive? Was it easy for them? As easy as we think? So there's some myths, right? There's some taboos. And there's some things that in our communities we don't really talk about. And let's be honest. When was the last time you actually heard a message, for those of you who go to church? When was the last time that you heard that there was a message about fertility or support for someone who has gone through some IVF challenges, or they're having repetitive cycles through IVF, or they're experiencing multiple miscarriages? It's so quiet in our faith-based communities. We have to stop and break the silence on that, because so many people are going back. They're worshiping God, they're trusting God, but at the end of the day, they're not having that one thing that they so long for. So today we're going to really be talking about 10 ways that we can deal with infertility. So as I mentioned, Toney and I, we lost Anaya on April 26, 2010. And we didn't really find out till almost a year after loss that we were really having some issues. Like, at first, I just thought, my doctor had given us the plan was to wait a year after Anaya, and then we would try again. But if anything happened before the year, we would just follow, if we got pregnant before the year, we would just be pregnant before the end of the year. Not a big deal. But her goal was to make sure that, we did not get pregnant before because, she wanted to make sure the uterus and everything had gotten the strength and was healed totally. But how many of you who may not know, so this is for people who have experienced loss or maybe not, or maybe you have experienced fertility challenges and maybe not. So I want to talk to you in regards to how you can help someone as well as those who are actually dealing with it, how you can process it. So let's jump into it because we know that this 1 hour goes by so fast. So I have 10 ways to help you go through your infertility challenges. Number 1, acknowledge your feelings is number 1. I think this is key because it's so important to not suppress how you feel. Again and again, we've heard that if you suppress your feelings, that it usually will manifest in some sort of way, right? So you may be telling everybody, and I know my husband will be like, oh yeah, when a woman says fine, I'm okay, I'm fine, usually it really means I'm not, right? So, but we cannot constantly rely on people to kind of read our minds on how we feel. So it's so important to be transparent so that people know how to approach you. They know what you need. And so at least they can try to figure it out. At least they'll understand why you may be emotional, why you may be angry, why you may be silent, why you may be crying. So it's okay to just say, this isn't a good day. And I know for me, there were plenty of days when I was just trying to conceive. And every time my cycle would begin, I would be depressed. My whole mood would just change. And poor Toney would be sitting there trying to figure out what just happened. You were just happy. I mean, what just happened? You went to the bathroom, came back with an attitude. Did somebody say something to you in the bathroom? Did something happen to you in the hallway? Like, what just happened? And a lot of times I would never really share what I was feeling. And so not only if you don't share what you're feeling, it impacts your spouse, it impacts your children, but it also impacts your body. So when we keep our feelings within ourselves, eventually it starts to weigh the stress of feeling down, the stress of being angry, the stress of being disappointment can start to weigh on your body. And it actually is counterproductive on your goals of becoming pregnant if you're harboring these feelings and these emotions on the inside. So it's more healthy to find a way to share and express your feelings and to just, acknowledge that you're feeling what you're feeling. Number 2, and I've already kind of alluded to this, is always be honest with your partner, right? I mean, God has joined you and your husband, or you and your wife. Well, this is the wife segment. So God has joined you with your husband. And so you need to be comfortable, or you can be comfortable, or you should feel comfortable to talk to your spouse and just say, I'm angry about this, or I'm sorry that this treatment isn't working, or I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to express it, because you may find out that your spouse is also dealing with some some emotional issues with going through this fertility challenge, because sometimes it can be the woman who might be maybe having some of the complications or the blockages, or having to do a lot of tests. But then sometimes it could be the male that may be having some issues that is preventing you from conceiving. And so that could wear on a man. And so it's important to be able to communicate with each other, because he needs to know and feel secure that you're supporting him in his process, because you might be like, hey, it ain't me, it's you. And so if it is the man, that can weigh down on his ego and his pride and his self-esteem. And so he really needs you to be compassionate and be that listening ear, and being supportive in whatever test or whatever treatment plan that the doctors are giving him to work through this, right? And just finding out what those options are. So he needs you to be supportive. And also, if you're looking at it from, hey, what if my husband isn't supporting me, then being clear with your husband and being able to be honest about, in a positive way on how he can help you. Because sometimes men, as we talked about a few weeks ago, they need you to be specific about what it is you need. And maybe, just maybe, your husband may need you to be more specific on how he can help you, how he can support you. And so it all begins with a conversation. Number 3, if we're going to make it through infertility, and this is key, because for me, once I found out that we had to do some testing, we had to do some things, we had to speak to trusted counselors, right? So sometimes you might feel like, okay, I can't really, always maybe feel like my spouse can support me in a way that I need to be supported. Then this is where you can come to organizations such as Anaya's Project, or some other organizations that I'm going to mention here later, where you can get that support from other women or from other men, because we do have men who come out to support groups. And so when you're around other people, that helps, because sometimes your spouse may not be able to be the end all of your support. So it's okay if you feel like you need to go and speak to a professional therapist, or if you want to join a support, or you don't have to join a support group. Even if you just go one time, that might be the one time that you need. So it's okay to go to a counselor. It's okay to go to a trained counselor or professional to get you the help. And especially if you and your spouse are not seeing eye to eye, because so many marriages and relationships, for those who are not married, break up because of infertility issues. And if you're not communicating, which is a core to any relationship, it is a core factor. And if it's breaking down, if you're arguing, if you're disagreeing, if you can't see eye to eye, if you just, the stress of, it is so stressful to deal with fertility challenges. And so the weight of wanting a baby, wanting to grow your baby, wanting to grow your family can wear a family out, okay? Because now it's not just the physical aspects of going through IVF. I did not personally go through IVF, but just to give you a little bit of background before I go into the next item, I did work several years in the medical environment. So I've worked with OBGYNs, I've worked with perinatologists, I've worked with the best of the best. I've been in Shady Grove. I've known a lot of the doctors So I'm used to the terminology. I'm used to seeing women having to come in and do genetic testing, and I'm used to, or the husbands coming in and doing genetic testing. So while I may not have gone through IVF, I have seen a lot of families who have gone through IVF, and and they conceive and they have the multiples, and sometimes they've had to reduce multiples, or they've had lost multiples, or they lost them all. So it's wear and tear. It's the disappointment of did we have a successful transfer? So that is so stressful on a relationship. So I reiterate the fact that it is okay to go to a trained professional who can give you the tools, strategies, and resources to help you navigate through that. And also, if you just want peer-to-peer support, go to a support group. Sometimes in our support groups, we will have trained professionals, and then sometimes it is just the lay people who are talking through their experience. So let's move on to number 4. Understand your options. Okay, so it says here, part of the difficulty of coping with infertility is feeling hopeless and not knowing what to do next. Okay, so as I mentioned in our fertility challenge, there were so many options provided to us that it was almost overwhelming. It was so overwhelming to know which treatment to go with, and is it worth the risk? Is it worth the cost? Is it worth taking out that loan? Where is the money going to come from? Understanding the choices that they're giving you, being able to, and I would say be transparent, talk to the doctors, interview the doctors, come in with your questions, come in. If they give you some options and you don't understand it, it's okay to tell the doctor, I don't understand that, and could you further explain? So, and at what point, like for example, for us, my doctor said, he said, listen, because you are over 35, so that makes you advanced maternal age, right? They make you sound like you're an old lady, so they don't give you a lot of time for your body to do things on the natural process. So they told us, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you 3 to 4 months to try it on your own. And if by the 3 or 4 months there is no process, you're not pregnant, this is the next step. The next step is we're going to give you the Coumadin or the Clomid, I'm sorry. And so it's like, and if that didn't work, then hey, we'll move on to, I'm good, thank you. Then we'll move on to, we'll have to look at IVF, okay? But I knew what the process was. I knew that he was saying, I'm going to give you this amount of time to try it on your own. I'm going to give you this amount of time that we're going to try these medicine. And then after that, we really got to take a strong look at IVF. And this is what that process will look like. So when having that option and knowing what my options were and knowing what the plans were, it made me a little bit more comfortable with being in my process and understanding. And it I won't say it made me comfortable, but at least I understood what our choices were going to be, because again, we only were given like 10% chance. Because I had lost the tube and things just weren't going in our favor to be able to do it. But God had another plan. Thank you, Jesus. And so there's always hope. And number 5, and I've already kind of mentioned this earlier, is join an infertility group. I can't stress it enough. Seeing a professional and then being around your peers who are going through the same thing, who are speaking your language, who understand your disappointment. It's just good and helpful to know somebody else is going through the process. It's almost like you're paired up with, not paired up, but at least you can see people on a consistent basis who are going after the same things. Because I tell you, it's hard to talk about these things with friends who don't have this issue. And so well-meaning friends can help you, they can support you, they can stand by your side, but it's different to be beside someone who is going through the same things and having to make the same decisions and having the same choices. And so it's important to find a support group. And you know what about support groups? It's okay if you got to go to multiple support groups to find your fit. So don't feel like you just have to go to the first one and you just feel stuck. Like, it's okay to kind of shop around for the best support group. And how do you find these support groups? You can ask people. If you're on social media, you can ask questions. I'm going to share some groups. Is actually a co-laborer, if you will, who has, she so nicely shared a couple of groups. And so I'm going to share it right now before I forget. So, this is one good page to follow as well, is Sisters in Lost Community by Erica McAfee. She does a phenomenal job while we're talking about pregnancy loss and infant loss, but she does a lot of things where she talks about infertility as well. So besides our group with the Naya's Project, this is another group that you can also check out. And she's actually named quite a bit of groups that deal specifically with Black women's health and fertility and faith for those who are faith-based. And so some of the places are called Tiana Q. Cade Foundation, The Broken Brown Egg, Ocean Fertility, Family Inception, 12 Ministries. So it's like 12 Ministries, Black Women and Infertility, Black Girls Guide to Fertility, Fertility Hope, FFCG Hope. So these are a few other organizations that can help you deal with your fertility challenges. You are not alone. And I will share this on our Perfect Family Blend page as well as our Naya's Project page, because guess what? As African American women, we face a lot of extra challenges. I know I said there's 1 in 8, but African American women are facing way high statistics on not just fertility issues and not just infant and pregnancy loss, but also losing our lives when it comes to pregnancy. So it's important to be around. It's not to say that, our other nationalities don't have troubles. However, for the African American woman, we're like dying at high numbers, which, now a lot of hospitals and medical professionals are starting to look at this as to why so many women, and they're not all like, in the lower economic bracket. These are women who are in the upper brackets that are also losing their lives off of childbirth. And here in the United States of America, which is supposed to be we're supposed to be the big kahunas, right? We should not be leading the numbers of deaths for pregnancy, right? So anyway, this is important that we talk about these sort of things. And so let me go back to my notes here. And so hold on, give me 1 second. Go back to my notes. So it's important that we talk about that. Okay, so joining the fertility group was the last thing. Number 6, this is so good. Find healthy outlets for your emotions. Listen, this is so important because when you're trying to conceive, I know for me, I became obsessed with trying to be pregnant again. It was really unhealthy, and so it would have helped me had I known to try to find a healthy outlet. So I'm speaking from experience because if you don't have something to do, something to take your mind off of things, you know, and it can be easy, walking, exercising, learning to do a craft, um, learning, go volunteer somewhere. You can always volunteer at a hospital. You can volunteer with, there's so many different organizations and charities out here. If you feel comfortable and you feel like you're in the space where you can volunteer in a NICU or in a hospital on the labor and delivery floor, or if you're comfortable. But if not, the hospital is huge, so there's many places, I'm sure, that you could volunteer your time. It's so many different charities that are always looking for volunteers. So I mentioned quite a few of organizations that deal with infertility. I'm sure that you could go volunteer there. Anaya's Project is always looking for volunteers. So there's several different things that you can do to kind of help get your mind in, thinking about something else. Because sometimes when we take our mind off of something, that's when the thing that we want sometimes show up. You hear people who say, oh, well, it's just not going to work for me. And they stop all of the pressure. They stop all of the worrying. And they go out and they may adopt. Or they may just say, forget it. I'm just going to throw all my love into my nieces and my nephews. Or I'm going to go and join the Boys and Girls Club. And I'm just going to love on them kids in the Boys and Girls Club. And then next thing you know, poop, pop, they're pregnant. Right? And because you don't realize the amount of stress you carry when you are worrying about the fertility. As I already mentioned, it's a heavy weight. And so sometimes we just need to find healthy outlets, whether it's painting, whether it's going out with your friends, whether it's going on a vacation with your husband, if it's, anything that you just find. If it's going to sit by the beach, if you're in the DC area, just go sit by at Haynes Point, watch the airplanes go off. Whatever that thing is, journaling, find a healthy outlet for your emotions. All right, we're making good time. Number 7. Ooh, this is so good. Reestablish intimacy with your partner. Wow. I'm going to say that again. Reestablish intimacy with your partner. Wow. And as we already talked about, intimacy isn't always sex, right? Because as I mentioned, when I was obsessed with becoming pregnant, sex wasn't the issue, right? But the lack of intimacy began to take a toll. Because Toney, I joke, it sounded like a great idea, when I was like, yeah, we're going to do this every day. All right, this not working. I need you to come home, come in, let's just get this done, And then after a while, it just became like, come on, this is a chore. No intimacy, no connection, no holding hands, no talking, no touching, no nothing. Just get on in here and let's just try to make this baby, right? So it's important when you are in fertility challenges to reestablish the intimacy. I remember telling one couple that we met, and she really, what I just shared with you resonated with her so much. And I was like, just fall in love with your husband again. Stop thinking about having a baby. I know it sounds like I was, I said it in a loving way, but I just said, just love him. Just fall in love with him again. Just go back to the time when you weren't worried about getting pregnant. just look into his eyes and just tell him that you love him. Just hold his hand. Go on a date. And when you are in a sexual intimacy with your husband, don't be thinking like this is going to be the time. Is my window open? Like, just be in love with your husband. I know you love your husband, but I mean, like, be in love with him. Remember why you fell in love with him. Remember those things that he did. Remember how he touched you. Remember how he kissed you. Go back to that and just love him. Just go back to enjoying the sexual intimacy as opposed to treating it like a chore. Like, it's just the income. I mean, not the income, the outcome. What is it that you're looking to occur by the exchange of coming together? So that is important, because I know at one point Toney was just kind of like, this is not fun anymore. You know what I mean? Like, just stop. This isn't fun. And no one likes to feel like they feel like they just a piece of meat. They just laying there. You don't even care if he's involved. You don't care. You just want his body parts. You know what I mean? So nobody likes that feeling. So, ladies, let's just fall back in love. Let's bring the romance back. Let's, take a stroll in the park. Let's fall in love with our husbands. And I'm not saying that it will guarantee you pregnancy, but what I can guarantee is that your marriage will be stronger. What I can guarantee is that you will be strengthened because you're having that kind of intimacy with your spouse. Number 8. This one is this point blank. Be optimistic, but also be realistic. Listen, I'm going to say it again. Be optimistic, but also realistic. And I'm going to stop here because I need to give you the phone number just in case you want to ask any questions. The number is 240-719-2560. Again, 240-719-2560. So, and please share this out because this is just something that we all need to be talking about. I know there's a lot of marriage ministries. I see Cynthia Green. I see a couple of people who are joining, and we really need to talk about it. I mean, we could talk about communication. We could talk about all these things, but fertility issues will destroy a marriage, right? So let's go back to number 8. Be optimistic, but also realistic. Listen, I have faith that can move mountains. I have faith that God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can ask or think. I have faith that there is nothing impossible with God. But there is not, I mean, it's hard to have that but behind that statement. But there are times when we have to look at all of the options available to us. The wear and tear of constantly trying to do IVF or doing the different medications can take a toll on your body. Not only your body, but your finances, right? And at some point, we have to look at it and say, let's reevaluate our situation and just ask, are we going to be able to meet the goal? And if it's not through IVF, is adoption an option? Is surrogacy an option? Have you taken an account for all of the different options to become a parent? I know that's hard to hear. I know that there is nothing like being able to birth a child out of your own body, to go through the process. But if you're having severe issues, if you're having things that is just not healthy, at some point we have to start to look at some of the other options. And I know that is difficult to do. I know that that is detrimental. It is hard to accept. It is actually like going through the grief process. You know, you're angry, you're in denial, you know, you're going through all of those things before you finally can get to acceptance, right? It's hard to accept something that you want so bad, but it's like things aren't lining up. Your body, you know, whether it's your body, whether, the medical field can only do so much, right? I mean, we are cutting edge. They're finding different ways to make things happen, to do their best to help us as families to grow families or to have a family, to conceive. But sometimes, even with the advanced technology, even with the advanced medical science out, just sometimes it just don't work. And so we have to say, when is enough? When do we stop? And so we have to look at it and, make those hard decisions. And, making sure that when we're setting our goals, that they're actually attainable goals. If your doctor is saying, this not going to work. Now, again, I'm speaking as a matter of fact, not, I know God is able to do it because he did it for me. And I believe wholeheartedly if he did it for me, he could do it for you. But every one of us, I put on my page, all of us have a journey and all of our lanes are different. So my journey on my lane was that I dealt with the fertility challenges for 2-3 years. But for my story, I was able to conceive. But in the next lane, my sister over here may not have that. And I can't be like, just constantly be like, girl, he did it for me, he can do it for you. Like, you have to take the information, and if it's really looking like it's not obtainable, then we have to start to look at what are some of the other options. And that's not always easy. And that's where we talk about having your counselors and your professionals there to kind of help you, because really that is really hard to do. And that's where your support group will be there for you. That is where your professional counselor will be there for you. And of course, your medical specialists, they're there for you as well. So let's move on to number 9. This is very important. Do not blame yourself. I'm going to pause on that. Do not blame yourself. After accepting the fact that, hey, maybe this isn't going to work for me, today I actually posted would've, could've, should've, right? Becomes the enemy of the mind. And you can replay things back from when you, especially if it's you, like if it's something that within you is making it so that you cannot conceive, you start to internalize and you start to say, well, if I hadn't done this, or I should have taken care of myself. I should have did one more thing, or I should not have done X, Y, and Z when I was a teenager. Oh, and you just start blaming yourself. I encourage you today to not blame yourself. Focus your energy on the positive things about your walk, about your journey. And most of the times when we shift our thinking, and it is hard to do, it is work, ladies. I'm going to tell you, it's work. This is no walk in the park. This is not something you're going to snap your fingers and just, be able to do this. But you have to remember, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. It's nothing you did. It's nothing that, you know, is, even if you made a decision before and now is having an impact on your now, it's okay. Don't blame your. Every day we make decisions, right? And every day, sometimes we make a good decision and sometimes we make a not so good decision. But we can't change the decisions that we made in some instances. But no, nevertheless, we cannot blame ourselves. So, and then finally, in not blaming yourself, number 10 is take care of yourself. Okay? Now it's all about self-care. And I remember hearing someone say, you know, self-care is not about going to get your hair done. It's not about going to get your nails done. It's not about massages. It's all about, you know, being a healthy you. Whatever it is for you, let it take care of you. So if taking care of you is going to the doctor and making sure, you know, going to the therapist, that's taking care of you. If going to the doctor, your medical offices and checking your blood levels and just making sure overall health, that's taking care of you. If going on vacation and planning out a vacation or a weekend getaway or a daycation, you don't always have to go anywhere far. So that's taking care of you. If it's going on a little drive and you just drive straight and you drive till you just like, I'm tired, I need to turn back around, that's taking care of you. Take care of yourselves, ladies, because it's only you. We only get one time on this earth to go around this thing called life. Right? And so in order to do that successfully, we have to take care of ourselves. We do a lot of things as wives, as women. If you are a mom, you do a lot of things for the children that you already have. And sometimes you get lost. Take care of you. Because the only way you're going to be able to take care of everybody else is if you're in good standings. So take care of yourself. Even if things are going well in your IVF journey or your fertility journey and things are lining up, you're moving along on your treatment plan. Take care of yourself, because inevitably, if you do become pregnant, guess what? Pregnancy takes a toll on your body. And so you want to be in the best shape you can be. So if it's exercise, if it's going for a walk, if it's just, clearing, like we talked about, finding an outlet. Find those things. That's all a part of taking care of yourself. So ladies, listen, it is like most people's dream is to be able to, expand a family, start a family, and it can be very emotional on a lot of levels. And so as you move through your different plans, as you move through your different programs, please, 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 if nothing else, you don't remember none of the other 10 things I say. Just if you only remember one, remember this one. Seek professional help if you need it. I don't think we say that enough to people, that it is okay to go talk to someone. If you feel like you can't talk to your spouse, if you feel like you can't talk to your friend, then find that counselor that you can talk to, because the one thing I can stress to you is you cannot walk through the infertility journey by yourself. The weight is too thick. Plus, God ain't create us to be by ourselves. As women, we like to be around people, even if, you may not want to, share everything, but we're not made to be alone. And that has been one of our things that we share a lot in Amnaya's project is You are not alone. You are not the only woman that has ever gone through this. You are not the only woman who has to make these decisions. You are not the only woman who has ever been disappointed. You are not by yourself. And so if you don't remember anything else, seek help in the areas that you need to seek the help in. And so that, as we get ready to come to the end, I got like a few minutes. And so if you have any questions, please share. Let me see if any comments, share. But again, just don't be alone in this process. And so that is my segment for tonight. But I just wanted to encourage everyone. And for those who may have experienced loss and, multiple miscarriages or multiple stillborns, like that is it. These things can still work for you. I know it's Infertility Week, but as we are coming up on our 1-year anniversary with Anaya's project, I'm going to talk about pregnancy and infant loss with the last few minutes. And it's key. I'm just going to be transparent. Tomorrow is Anaya's birthday. And since we're talking about acknowledging your emotions, every year it's, some people think that, you just over it or you're healed from it. The only way that I'm able to do all of these different things is because, to me, Anaya's project is a healthy outlet for me. It is a way to be able to serve others. It's a way to give back. It's a way to help others cope with their feelings and their emotions. And so Anaya would have been 9 years old tomorrow, and we would have probably been planning a party. We would have been having so much fun, going to see Avengers. So it's just like, it's always that question of why, or what did I do, or how do I move on? How do I move on from loss? How do I move on from fertility? And the thing about it is, you take it day by day. Like I tell people, day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second. You're not racing. Again, you're in your lane. So if it looked like somebody's speed on and they done healed and they're fine and they moved on, that's their lane. You ain't got to try to stay with them. And that's what I've done. Over 9 years, I stayed in my lane. And I heal how I heal. I feel how I feel. I cry when I cry. I get mad when I get mad. I get moody in this week. There's been weeks. I mean, if my husband was on here, he'd probably be like, yeah, she's been a little moody this week. And so it's okay. It's okay to feel what you feel. So, as I get ready to close, this is Sanita Mitchell. This is the Wives segment of In the Mix with the Mitchells, where you can catch us here every Wednesday night. Every third. What's today? See, I told you my emotions right now and went all off onto the wrong day of the week. Every Thursday night from 9:15 to 10:15, you can catch us here when we're bringing you nuggets to help you build your families, because we're all about the family. And so you can catch us here. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram as The Perfect Family Blend. If you want to like our nonprofit, Anaya's Project, you can follow us on Anaya's Project, which is on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to have some great events coming up. Oh, and we have to say, just before we leave, congratulations to me and Toney. We are now prepared and enriched facilitators, so we'll be able to do some premarital counseling. Woo! So if you know any people who are going to be getting married, we are trained and certified and being able to help you as you get ready to embark on this new thing called marriage. And so thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you back here next week at 9:15. Have a great night.